How many times have you felt the pull of something big and then let it go because the moment wasn't perfect? How many plans have you shelved until conditions aligned, only to find those conditions never arrived? Right now, I'm going to call you out, not to shame you, but to wake you up. Because there's a brutal truth. Indecision is the silent thief of possibility. It steals time, it steals momentum, and most tragically, it steals the lives you might have lived. Listen, waiting for a clear sign, waiting until you know enough, waiting until you feel ready, that's a habit. It masquerades as prudence, but under the surface, it's fear dressing itself up in logic. The difference between people who remake their lives and people who remain spectators is one thing: the muscle of decisiveness. The people who change their world don't have fewer doubts. They simply make decisions despite them. You need to understand something crucial. A decision is not a feeling. It's an agreement with yourself to act. You don't wait to feel confident, you build confidence by doing. Every decision is a seed. Some seeds sprout immediate green shoots, others lie dormant, but the act of planting shifts you. Plant enough seeds, water them with action, and you stop being a person who hopes for change, you become the person who creates it. Now, let me cut through the fog with a simple structure. When you choose decisively, you trigger a chain reaction: clarity, momentum, small wins, identity change. It sounds neat because it is. The first decision gives you clarity. Clarity fuels momentum. Momentum produces small wins. Small wins recreate how you see yourself. Once your self-image shifts from "I try things" to "I do things," your world rearranges itself around that identity. Here's the reality many ignore. Most of the tools, books, programs, and courses in the world are sterile unless you have the guts to act. Knowledge without motion is decoration. Inspiration without follow-through is a show. Initiative turns both into power. Imagine a library filled with unused weapons, brilliant ideas stacked like unused knives. They don't protect you, they just look impressive. Initiative is what sharpens them and puts them in your hands. Decisiveness isn't some dramatic, cinematic thunderbolt that hits you one day and everything resolves. It's practical and often boring. It's the quiet, repeated choice to do the next right thing when your instincts whisper retreat. It's saying yes to discomfort because you understand discomfort is the currency of growth. The person who chooses to initiate again and again compiles a credit of experience that compounds. Over time, the compounding is ruthless in the best way. Small, consistent moves beat sporadic brilliance every time. Let's talk about fear, not to dwell on it, but to dismantle it. Fear is normal. It shows up as a litany of reasons. Not enough time, not enough money, what if I fail, what if people judge me? Those are not reasons, they are resistances. Ask yourself this: which of those resistances is worse, failing at action or failing to try at all? The person who acts may break something, but they will also learn, adapt, and build. The person who freezes preserves a false sense of safety while their opportunities erode. There's a practical way to begin rewriting the inner script. Start with one thing you can decide on and do within 24 hours. Not next week, not next month, now. Make the decision small enough to be achieved but big enough to matter. It could be a 30-minute conversation, an outline, a 5-minute cold call, or going to the place where your future contacts gather. Do that one thing. When you finish it, reflect for 2 minutes. Celebrate the fact that you followed through. That reflection is not fluff. It's feedback that tells your brain action yields result. Brains like patterns. Give your brain a pattern of action. I want to be clear about perfection. It is a dream killer dressed as a virtue. Perfection tells you to delay, to refine endlessly, to wait for conditions that never arrive. The better question is not, is this perfect? It's, is this moving me forward? If the answer is yes, then move. If the answer is no, adjust along the way. You learn faster in motion than in deliberation. You course correct by doing, not by planning forever. There's also a crucial social law you must adopt. People follow movers. When you take initiative, you become a magnet. People prefer to be with those who pick a direction and move. Leaders are rarely chosen because they have perfect answers. They are chosen because they acted first. When you step forward, others gain permission to step beside you. That is the quiet power of initiative. You become contagious. Action begets action. Let's be tactical for a moment. You want structure that you can practice today. Here are 3 rules I want you to burn into muscle memory. Make a decision, any decision, by a set deadline. If you say by the end of the day, make the choice by then. Indecision breeds inertia. Deadlines destroy it. Commit to the smallest effective action. Don't aim for monumental. Aim for the smallest thing that will move your plan forward. Tiny wins accumulate into unstoppable momentum. Do one uncomfortable thing daily that aligns with your goals. Discomfort is the price of growth. Pay it regularly and the interest compounds. A story, quick and true in its essence. There was someone who wanted to write, who kept saying they needed more study, more technique, more inspiration. For years, they consumed material about writing, collecting notes like a hoarder of potential. One day, they decided to commit to 500 words a day. That commitment changed their life. The words were bad at first. Some of them were simply awful. But 500 words a day is a pump for the creative muscle. Within months, they had a body of work. Within a year, they had enough to show to the world. The decision to write daily was not cinematic, it was relentless. That's how lives are rebuilt. Daily, stubborn, patient action. I'll tell you something else. Momentum is kind to the decisive. The first 30 minutes after you take action are often the hardest. Your mind will murmur reasons to stop. That's normal. Push through the first resistance window and you'll find the work reshapes you. You'll think differently because your brain records that you are someone who follows through. Identity follows behavior. You are who you act like. Now, let me give you a small but potent exercise to do right now. Open your phone or a blank document. Write down one target you have that actually scares you a little. Not a vague dream, a specific next step. Then decide the exact action you will take in the next 24 hours that advances that target. Make it measurable and finishable. Hit send, hit submit, show up, do one concrete thing. After you do it, comment below this video and tell us what you chose and how it felt. When you share, you make your decision real. When you share, you invite accountability. When you share, you inspire someone else to act. Before I close this part, remember this. Decisiveness is not a heroic sudden transformation. It's a discipline. It's a set of repeated choices that, over time, change your trajectory. Think about a compass. If you consistently point yourself in slightly better directions, the aggregate will take you far. You don't need perfect aim, you need consistent aim. So get off the bench. Make one concrete decision. Do the smallest thing that moves you forward in the next 24 hours. Do it now. Then come back and tell me you did. Tell me what you did and how it felt. Leave a comment. Be blunt, be honest, be proud. What single small action will you take in the next 24 hours that will force you to become the person you claim you want to be? Part 2. Decisiveness is not a flash of bravado. It's a skill, a deliberate set of moves you practice until they become automatic. If part 1 was about the why, this part is about the how. the inner mechanics, the small structural changes that turn occasional courage into steady initiative. If you want to become the kind of person who acts without being paralyzed by the noise of doubts, you must rewire the small moments that compose a day. First, learn the difference between impulse and decision. Impulse is noise, a sudden surge of emotion that often leads to regret. Decision is a contract you make with yourself. I will do X by Y. Impulse bypasses planning and discipline. Decision binds with commitment. When you confuse the two, you ride a roller coaster of starts and stops. When you separate them, you build a track. Your life needs tracks. Your inner dialogue matters far more than you think. You hear a voice in your head that comments, judges, warns, postpones. That voice is not truth, it's a program. And like any program, it can be edited. Every time you tell yourself later, you strengthen a neural path that makes later a habit. Every time you say now, you strengthen a different path, the one that leads to action. Treat your internal conversation like the steering wheel of a car. If the steering wheel constantly jerks towards avoidance, you'll never arrive. Reframe your self-talk. Make promises in the present tense. Replace I might with I will. Replace I should with I am. Language is a muscle. Train it. Micro-commitments are your best weapon. Big goals are noble but terrifying. The solution is to shrink the horizon until the next move fits in your hand. Want to build a business? Start with a single client call or a one-page plan that you complete in 2 hours. Want to write a book? Commit to 300 words a day. Want to improve your fitness? Commit to 10 minutes of focused movement. These micro-commitments do something invisible and powerful. They remove moral friction. When your target is tiny and finishable, you stop arguing with yourself and start doing. Momentum loves small wins. Small wins accumulate interest. There's a mechanism I use with people who get stuck: the decision deadline. Pick a decision deadline and make it visible. Put it in your calendar. Put it on a sticky note. Tell an actual person. When the deadline arrives, commit to one clear choice and a single next action. The deadline creates structure. Structure kills the fantasy of indefinite preparation. Real growth rarely honors endless preparation. It honors decisions made and acted upon. Another practical hack is what I call the 5-move rule. When you feel resistance, force yourself to perform exactly 5 small moves that push the project forward. Not 100 moves, 5. The trick is to make those moves measurable and immediate. Send an email, sketch an outline, make one call, open the tab and write a paragraph, schedule a meeting. The brain can handle 5, it rebels at 100. After 5 moves, the friction often collapses. You'll find that once you start, you want to keep going. The 5-move rule converts paralysis into progress. Don't misunderstand, preparation matters. But preparation without initiation becomes procrastination in clever clothes. Preparation should be a support, not a substitute for action. If you're preparing, give that prep a deadline too. Say, I will prepare for 3 days, then I will launch. Give yourself permission to be imperfect at launch. You will refine faster in the real world than in the rehearsal of your head. Now let's talk about how emotions and logic interact. Many people expect logic alone to lead them. It's a comfortable illusion. Emotions are the engine, logic is the map. You need both. Use emotion to fuel urgency, and use logic to choose direction. If you feel fear, let it be data. Fear tells you where you care. Channel that energy into specific steps. If you feel excitement, use it to create a sprint. The best decisions integrate both. They are emotionally committed and rationally organized. Habits are the scaffold of initiative. Habit formation is not glamorous, but it is effective. Start a ritual that signals to your brain work mode. That ritual could be as simple as a 2-minute breathing pattern, a specific playlist, or a 5-minute prep on a physical desk. Rituals reduce decision fatigue. When you have a ritual, your brain knows what to do and stops wasting energy on should I. Build ruthlessly efficient routines. Routines don't limit freedom, they free you from the tyranny of choice. Another angle you must master is the art of decision hygiene. It means reducing the number of low-value choices you make daily so your energy is reserved for meaningful decisions. Simplify your morning, your meals, your wardrobe, if that helps you conserve willpower. Remove tiny decisions that consume attention. The fewer micro battles you fight, the more energy you have for the real war, creating what matters. You should also practice the discipline of public commitment. Announce a small pledge to one person or an audience. When others know, your likelihood of follow-through skyrockets. The social pressure is not oppressive, it's useful. Accountability is a natural amplifier of initiative. Use it. Ask a friend to be a reporting partner. Tell a colleague your plan. Post a brief update. The world rewards those who act publicly. Failure is not a catastrophe, it's feedback. Reframe failure as data from the field. When something goes wrong, debrief quickly. What worked? What didn't? What could you try differently? A rapid learning loop defeats rumination. If you refuse to interpret failure, you make it permanent. If you analyze it, you convert it into a lesson, but not a sentimental one. A tactical lesson, a tweak, a test, another move. There's one more dangerous pattern to avoid: analysis paralysis disguised as research. Research is noble, paralysis is lazy. If you find yourself endlessly reading about how to start rather than starting, set a work rule. For every hour of research, do 30 minutes of action. Force a balance. The market cares about what you do, not what you know. Now, a short practical exercise you can do in this moment. Close your eyes for 30 seconds and think of a project you've avoided for weeks. Open your eyes and write down the smallest possible action you can take in the next 2 hours that, if completed, would change the project's trajectory. Not plan for 6 months, one tiny, meaningful move. Then execute it. After you finish, write one sentence about what you learned and how you felt. Post that sentence in the comments below. The act of posting turns the private decision into public momentum. Before we end this section, remember one quiet truth. Persistence beats talent when talent stops showing up. You will not be brilliant every day. You will be inconsistent, messy, afraid. That's okay. Your job is to be relentless enough that your inconsistency doesn't stop you. Decide in spite of fear. Take small steps in spite of doubt. Build daily frictionless habits that make action simple. Over time, your identity will shift. You will no longer ask, "Am I the kind of person who does this?" You'll assume it and move. So this is your challenge for now. Choose one micro action you can finish in 2 hours and do it. Then come back and tell us exactly what you did and what you learned. Leave a comment below. Be precise, be courageous, be honest. What tiny action will you take in the next 2 hours that will turn hesitation into motion? People don't follow theories, they follow action. You can explain the perfect plan until your throat is raw, and the room will politely nod and forget you 5 minutes later. But when someone steps up and moves, imperfect, visible, relentless, people notice. Initiative is social currency. It converts doubts into attention, and attention into influence. If you want to lead, the primary skill you must master is the ability to act first, then learn fast. Think about the last time you were inspired by someone. Was it their endless talking or their visible doing? Chances are you remember the person who launched the project, who took the risk, who kept showing up when the applause faded. That's because humans are wired to follow motion. Movement signals confidence, competence, and clarity. When you move, others can project onto you strength, vision, purpose. You don't need to be perfect for them to align, you just need to start. There's a profound advantage to being the first mover in your circle. When you initiate, you shape the framing. You set the pace. People around you start adjusting their expectations and behaviors based on your rhythm. If you constantly act, you create a higher gravity, a field that pulls others into motion. That's how teams form, how momentum builds, how reputations are made. To use a phrase with heavy truth, initiative creates permission. When you take the step, you give others the license to act, and that compounds faster than you think. But initiative is not about reckless jumping, it's intelligent action. It's a balance of speed and direction. You don't need to have the map for every mile, you need a compass for the first step. Leaders who act first often do so with imperfect information, and that's okay. The alternative is paralysis. Dale Carnegie taught the importance of human connection and clarity in action. He also made clear that people respond to leaders who are real and decisive. Use that. Be direct, share your step, invite others in. People want to join those who are already moving. One of the most underestimated powers of initiative is its effect on trust. People trust those who do. The correlation is almost brutal. Reliability in small matters breeds trust in large matters. If you regularly finish the small promises you make, you will be given bigger responsibilities. Say you commit to 5 minutes early each meeting, and you show up. That tiny consistency signals discipline. Over time, it compounds into a reputation, dependable, steady, someone to bet on. Trust is the currency of influence, and initiative is one of the quickest ways to earn it. Let's talk about some blunt practices you can start using today to expand your influence through action. First, the visible start. Whenever you want people to follow, start in public, not for vanity, but for clarity and momentum. Make the first step observable. Announce a tiny action to one person or a group, then do it. For example, I will draft the one-page plan and share it by Friday. Then, actually share it. The visible start converts private intention into social momentum. When others see you begin, they are more likely to join or support. Second, the permission engine. Often, the reason people don't act is they're waiting for permission. Stop waiting. Give yourself permission and then invite others. Use language that opens doors. I'm going to try X this week. If it works, we'll scale it. If not, we iterate. That way you create a low-stakes environment for others to hop in. People will join because your frame removes the weight of perfection and social risk. Third, master the decision plus ask pattern. Leaders who influence ask clear, simple things. Instead of vague calls to help or support, ask for specific actions. Can you make 2 introductions this week? Will you test this for 20 minutes? Precise requests are easy to answer and therefore more likely to elicit action. If you want influence, learn to ask for it in a way people can actually deliver. Fourth, leverage early micro victories. Show the world that the first steps produce results, however incremental. If you are starting a project, publish the prototype, not the perfected final. If you want a team to follow, deliver a small but meaningful outcome in week 1. Micro victories convert skeptics into allies far faster than any presentation or promise. They create credibility. There's also a social psychology truth you must use. Scarcity of action creates hunger. If no one is acting, people are comfortable staying comfortable. But if one person moves and the results are visible, others experience FOMO. Not the childish kind, but a productive social nudge. Humans are competitive and cooperative, Both instincts are triggered when they see someone achieving. Use that. Your movement lights a signal. Others will come to check, and many will stay. Now, let's prepare you for the pushback. Initiative frequently invites resistance. People fear change. Some will project their insecurities onto you. Expect friction. It's not a verdict on your idea, it's a symptom of disturbing the equilibrium. Anticipate objections and plan responses, but don't let objections paralyze you. If you plan to create change, you will not only encounter external resistance, you will meet internal pushback. Doubt, second-guessing, fear of being judged. Treat both as signs you are nearing the edge of growth. A useful tactical move here is the pre-mortem. Before you launch a step, imagine it has failed spectacularly. List reasons why it could have failed. This exercise exposes real risks without attaching your ego to them. Then prepare 2 quick mitigations and 1 emergency pivot. The pre-mortem makes your initiative more resilient and more credible to potential followers. Another powerful method is scaffolded delegation. If you want others to act, but they hesitate because of perceived complexity, break the task into tiny delegated pieces. Assign those pieces with time-bound expectations. Delegation scaled in microtasks reduces the intimidation factor and increases the chance of contribution. It also multiplies your influence. The more people who complete small parts, the larger your project becomes. Let me give you a story you can borrow from. A small company had an idea that could change how they served clients, but no one wanted to be the one to risk the existing safe process. One junior team member volunteered to run a 2-week pilot with one client, promising daily 10-minute check-ins and a 1-page report. The pilot worked. The visible success created a rush of volunteers. Within a month, the company adopted the new approach. The lesson is not complexity. It's starting where it's possible and being disciplined enough to deliver the first visible win. There are ethical edges here. Influence is power, and power can be misused. Use it to create value, not manipulation. Influence built on integrity compounds. Influence built on trickery collapses. When you take initiative, be honest about motives, transparent about outcomes, and generous in credit. Influence that respects people becomes durable. Now, here are 3 practical actions you can implement in the next week to grow influence through initiative. Choose a project and commit to a visible start. Announce one tiny deliverable publicly and complete it within 5 days. Ask for specific contributions from 2 people, not vague help, but exact tasks. Deliver a micro victory in week 1 and share the result broadly. When you do these, track the responses. Note who steps forward, who hesitates, who criticizes, and who supports. Learn the patterns. Influence is not a mystery, it's a system you can model and refine. Finally, remember this: the ethical exercise of influence is a force multiplier for good. When you act with clarity and integrity, you pull people towards shared goals, and your capacity to accomplish meaningful things grows exponentially. Acting is not only about you, it's about who your action enables. Now, it's time for you to take a visible step. Pick one small project or idea you've delayed and make a public, specific promise about the first deliverable. Post it in the comments below and tell us the exact step and the deadline. Leave one sentence about who you want to bring with you. When you write it, you turn a private intention into a social challenge. Who will you ask to join you? And what will your first visible deliverable be? Part 4. Fear is the great disguiser. It wears many faces: caution, prudence, realism, and most people mistake its masks for wisdom. But here's the raw truth. Fear's primary job is to preserve the status quo. It will seed stories to keep you safe, comfortable, and small. If you want a life of initiative, you must learn to see fear for what it is, a signal, not an order. When you learn to interpret fear, you stop obeying it. You have to understand the biology of the pushback. When you attempt something new, the primitive part of your brain lights up with alarms. That part of your mind wants a predictable outcome because predictability equals safety. The higher part of your mind, the one that imagines, plans, and acts, sees opportunity. Those two systems are in a tug of war. Your job is to act as the bridge. Honor the caution without letting it veto your growth. You do that with strategies that are small, sensible, and repeatable. Start by reframing fear as data, not as a verdict that you must stop, but as a barometer telling you where you care. If something scares you, it often deserves respect and action in equal measure. Ask practical questions. What is the worst realistic outcome? How repairable is that outcome? If it's repairable, you have permission to act. If it's catastrophic, design a safer first step. Either way, fear becomes information, and information can be managed. One of the simplest, most effective hacks to outrun fear is the count and go trigger. When your hesitation flares, count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then move immediately. The count interrupts the loop of overthinking and forces your body to act before your mind invents reasons not to. It's simple because brains hate interruption. Give your brain a short, sharp command and it obeys. Do this enough times and you wire a new pathway, action before avoidance. Another powerful technique is environment design. If your surroundings make it easy to act, you act more. If they make it hard, you'll find reasons to postpone. Set up triggers that nudge you into motion. A clean workspace that invites writing. A calendar event that forces a call. A visible checklist with tiny tasks that demand completion. Remove the friction points. If getting started requires 5 steps, make it 1. The path of least resistance should go where you want to be. Preparation matters, but don't let it become an alibi. Over-preparing is procrastination with a diploma. Instead, prepare to launch. Give yourself a preparation window, and then set a hard start. Preparation should reduce predictable risks, not eliminate the necessity of stepping into the unknown. The goal is not perfect readiness, it's workable readiness. Workable readiness plus action beats perfect preparation without motion. You must also master the internal response to setbacks. When things go wrong, and they will, your reaction determines whether that setback is a setback or a setup. There are 2 tempting responses: shame and analysis. Shame paralyzes. Analysis, properly done, accelerates. When a plan fails, debrief quickly, take the useful data, and convert it into the next micro-action. This quick loop prevents emotional rumination and keeps your momentum alive. Failure is not a stop sign. It's a speed bump if you choose to treat it that way. Let's not romanticize bravery. Bravery is not the absence of fear. It's action despite fear. Brave people feel the same dread you do. Their difference is they've decided to respect fear but not be ruled by it. They develop rituals that shorten the decision moment. They rehearse their initiation moves, the first sentence, the first call, the first foot through the door. When you rehearse that first move enough, it loses its power to intimidate. There is a method I teach that helps disarm catastrophic thinking. The 3-risk frame. When you imagine an action, write down 3 categories. Risks you can absorb immediately. risks you can mitigate with a small plan, and risks that would be truly catastrophic and how to avoid them entirely. Most actions live in category 1 or 2. Seeing this on a page demystifies the decision and often shows that the real dangers are manageable. You will be surprised how seldom the true risk justifies paralysis. Another essential skill is the ability to split long-term vision into near-term experiments. Big goals terrify because they feel endless. Convert them into short, measurable experiments with clear time boxes. An experiment is a permission to fail. It's a scientific approach to life. Hypothesize, test, learn. When you turn audacious aims into experiments, you release the pressure of perfection and invite curiosity. Curiosity beats fear because curiosity wants to know, not to avoid. You must also protect your energy. People who are constantly drained have less capacity for decisive action. That means you need boundaries. Protect deep work times, refuse some invitations, and build recovery into your schedule. Energy management is not indulgence, it's strategy. High energy equals higher quality decisions and faster recovery from setbacks. You can't be decisive when you're running on empty. Social dynamics matter too. Seek people who will stretch you. Critics who only tear you down without offering alternatives are toxic. Find allies who will call your bluff and also hand you a ladder. When you surround yourself with doers, the social norm shifts. You will start acting more because participation becomes normal. Conversely, if your circle rewards inaction or overanalysis, you will mirror that. Your environment shapes the edges of what you think is possible. Face the small humiliations before the big ones. If you fear public failure, start with low-stakes practice in private groups or with trusted friends. If you fear money loss, run a small pilot. The incremental exposure builds tolerance. The humiliation you avoid in the short term often becomes the chain that binds you forever. Short, controlled exposure loosens those chains. Rituals deserve a final nod. Build a pre-action ritual that signals your body you are moving into a different state. It could be 5 deep breaths, a 2-minute stretch, a short walk, or a specific playlist. Rituals are anchors. They tell your mind that something important is starting, and they reduce the friction of the initiation moment. Here's a tactical sequence you can apply when fear hits. Pause for 2 breaths. Frame the worst case realistically. Pick a tiny practical step that mitigates the major risk. Set a 24-hour deadline and execute. That sequence converts theoretical dread into manageable reality. Repeat it until it becomes habit. I want you to do a short exercise right now. Think of one action you've avoided for fear of being judged, losing money, or failing. Write it down. Next to it, write the absolute worst realistic outcome. Now, write one small first step that would make that worst outcome unlikely or fixable. Finally, put a 1-day deadline on that small step and do it. After you complete it, leave a comment below and tell us exactly what you did and what you learned. Be raw, be specific. Saying it out loud breaks the spell of fear. Remember, decisiveness is not a short sprint, it's a lifestyle audit. It asks you to choose the uncomfortable route repeatedly, to tolerate small failures, and to protect your energy so you can sustain the work. It requires humility to admit when something doesn't work and courage to pivot. The people who succeed are not those who never fall. They are those who fall forward, faster and with purpose. So here is the question I want you to answer in the comments. What is the single action you are most afraid to take right now, and what is the one tiny move you can make within 24 hours to render that fear manageable? Write it down. Do it, then tell us how it felt. Your bravery will make someone else braver too. Part 5. This is where it all connects. All the micro decisions, the 5-move pushes, the visible starts, the pre-mortems, they are not separate tricks. They are the architecture of a life lived by design. If you want to live on the far side of regret, you stop treating decisiveness like a sprint and start treating it like a daily discipline. Decide to become the kind of person who initiates, not occasionally, but by default. That shift changes everything. Start with identity. Identity is the operating system behind your actions. If you see yourself as someone who tries, your behavior will be tentative. If you see yourself as someone who builds, you will behave differently. The fastest route to change is to change the phrase you use about yourself. Say, I am someone who starts, or I am someone who finishes. Say it until your mouth gets tired. Language rewires neural paths. When you consistently act in alignment with that language, your environment will begin to treat you as that person too. Identity and action are a loop. Act, see results, update identity, act differently. Close the loop deliberately. Next, integrate decisiveness into the main pillars of your life. This is not a charisma trick, it's a systems play. In your work, make decisions that prioritize value creation over temporary comfort. In your relationships, make commitments you mean and show up visibly for them. In your health, choose consistent small practices rather than sporadic heroics. In your projects, prioritize completion and iteration over perfect design. When you align daily habits with decisive actions, you create a compound effect. Your career, your body, your relationships, they all begin to respond to repeated, directed motion. You must also learn to protect the rhythm of initiation. Life will throw distractions, opinions, and urgent but empty tasks at you. Guard the time and cognitive space where you do the creative and constructive work. Treat that time as sacred. If you allow it to be eaten by shallow tasks, you will find you have less capacity for the deep, bold choices that build a life. Defend your margins like they're investments, because they are. The person who wins in life is rarely the one who is busiest. It's the one who is deliberate about what they prioritize. Ambition without boundaries becomes burnout. If you want to be decisive for a lifetime, you must pair action with recovery. Rest is not weakness, it's a strategy. Schedule it, protect it, use it to refuel the energy that fuels your decisions. High-quality decisions require high-quality recovery. You cannot run on fumes and expect to sustain high-level initiation. Now, practical persistence. Keep a progress ledger. For every meaningful project, track tiny wins and honest failures. Not for vanity, but for calibration. A ledger does 3 critical things. It makes progress visible, it reveals patterns, and it creates a feedback loop that changes behavior. Weekly, review the ledger and ask, what small structural changes produced the biggest returns? Double down. What moves wasted time? Stop them. Over months, this simple ritual will turn your scattered action into an optimized engine. You also must expand your circle of influence intentionally. People are the amplifier of your decisions, but choose carefully. Seek companions who are builders, not just talkers. Seek mentors who have walked the path and can shorten your learning curve. But remember, proximity to action is the real teacher. The more you surround yourself with people who act, the more likely you are to act. Influence is contagious. Adopt the social architecture of doers. Another irreversible truth. Your willingness to act early creates optionality. When you initiate sooner, you get information faster. Information creates options. Options allow you to pivot, scale, or exit. People who delay are often stuck because they lack information. People who move quickly collect data and then choose. If you want a life with more choices, cultivate a bias for early action. You will be surprised how often the first move is the best move because it reveals the second and third options that were invisible before. Balance courage with humility. The habit of action should be paired with the humility to admit mistakes and the curiosity to learn. Pride kills speed. Humility accelerates it. When you take action quickly and then debrief with clear eyes, you avoid repeating avoidable errors. Ask better questions. What did the outcome teach me? How do I refine the next step? What did I misjudge? Use those answers to guide the next action. Decision cycles that are quick and honest beat deliberation without execution. Here's a concrete framework to use going forward. Decide in hours, plan in days, evaluate in weeks, and adapt in months. That framework forces momentum. Make decisions quickly when you can. Organize a short-term plan, then review frequently. The rhythm keeps you moving and prevents the stagnation of over-planning. You will find it liberating to actually move rather than endlessly refine plans that never meet reality. Make generosity part of your decisiveness. When you act, give credit, include collaborators, and lift others as you climb. Decision-driven life is not a solo conquest. It's a collaborative construction. Use the leverage of your actions to create opportunities for others. This multiplies your impact and builds networks that sustain your efforts over the long haul. Now, a few final mental models to carry with you. Treat decisions as bets with time horizons. Some bets are short and reversible. Some are long and consequential. Learn which is which and allocate your energy accordingly. Use optionality. Favor moves that give you many second chance possibilities. And finally, adopt the fall forward stance. When you fall, let it be forward motion. If a move fails, the learning must move you ahead, not trap you in shame. Before I close, remember the irresistible power of the small daily decision. It turns strangers into routines, routines into identity, and identity into a life that matters. This is not rhetorical fluff. It is the arithmetic of change. The person you become is the sum of daily choices compounded over months and years. Choose to be someone who acts with integrity, courage, and steady curiosity. Now, I want you to do something decisive that seals what you've learned here. Pick one area of your life, work, relationship, health, or project, and write down the one promise you will make to yourself that you are willing to prove in the next 24 hours. Make the promise concrete, measurable, and finishable. Then post it in the comments below. Say exactly what you will do and when you will finish it. That public promise turns a private desire into a public commitment and immediately amplifies your chance of follow-through. Be bold in your promise, but sane in your step. Start small if you must, but start. The world rewards motion. Your future will not arrive because you thought about it. It will arrive because you choose and you do. Which one promise will you make to yourself right now? And what single action will you take in the next 24 hours to prove it? If this pushed you at all, hit like and subscribe. It helps the message reach someone who needs to start.